Hello, friends. This is Chandrakant from Akulmach, and today is Monday. It's a bright Monday afternoon, and friends, as you know, that we discuss with our panel doctor about various medical conditions, and today we would like to discuss about the complications that arise because of weather changes. And we are very lucky. We are in India. We have very clearly four distinct weather patterns. So, without further ado, let me invite our panel doctor, Dr. Pooja Bedi.
Good morning, CK. Hope you are doing fine. And thanks once again for the opportunity.
It is our pleasure, Doctor. And we are in the month of February, and very soon there will be Holi. And after Holi, the weather will suddenly change, and then we will start seeing the great Indian sun on our landscape. And that will create a situation where from winter, suddenly people have to change their lifestyle to summers. And this brings a lot of complications. And today we would like to know what are these complications, how we can avoid, are there any remedies? So over to you, Dr. Bedi.
Yes, definitely, CK. First of all, actually, we all are aware whenever the season changes, it brings a change in the temperature, the humidity factor, and also to the fertility of the pathogens that are causing all kind of disorders or you can say diseases. So whenever the weather changes from one particular couple of months to the another couple of months, so the in between time period that is available, it is very good for the pathogens to grow up, so or the virulence actually grows up. So it depends the kind of disorder or the disease that comes up, like if the weather or the season is changing from summer to winter, from winter to spring, from again the other way around. So if we are talking specifically the weather that is changing from winter to the spring and then followed by the summer, as we all are aware that the flowers or the plants are blooming up these days. So the first thing that is very pre-marked and you can visibly see or sometimes suffer also is the hay fever or the asthmatic allergies or general nasal related allergies, cough, cold, flu, change of weather brings the fever as well, sometimes the stomach disorder that pops up. So these are the very common things that comes up. But along with this, the mental changes also comes up. So it is a very good thing when the weather is changing from winter to summer because the plenty of light is available. So when the light is there, we are less prone to any kind of mental disorders. If we are strong enough, we can definitely fight it out. But people who are already having a comorbidity factor, or you can say pre-existing factors related to the mental health care, so they are more vulnerable to the weather changes. Like last time we discussed about bipolar or BP disorder. So they are more vulnerable or any kind of mental pre-existing disorders. So particularly talking about the season that you just asked in the question. So it is actually a good friendly weather because plenty of sunlight is available. A good optimum temperature is available for us and for the pathogens as well. So we have to be very careful how we deal with this, the fertile population that is coming up of the pathogens and as well as of the pollen grains, which brings up the allergies. So my recommendation, as far as the treatment or the home management is concerned, sit as much as you can in the light. I'm not saying that you are sweating badly and then again you go ahead and sit in the sun. No. But expose yourself to the maximum light. Take off the curtains, you know, sit in the natural daylight, maybe in the shade if you want to. So exposure to light is very good. Certainly, people will find that there is a change in the sleep pattern as well whenever the weather changes. So the exposure to the light, it brings the melatonin level ups and down, which actually directly affects the sleep pattern in humans. Be on a very good diet, and the basic mantra is to maintain a very good hygiene. So if we are able to maintain a good hygiene, we can definitely avoid the to almost 50 to 70%. So basic hygiene and a good diet is highly recommended for any kind of weather change. And I myself personally like this weather because suddenly the sun that goes down a little early. Now the time is delayed, so the daylight is more available. Daytime is more available. So this is a good weather.
Well, Dr. Pooja, we are in India where we have clearly 3 to 4 clear, transition from winters to summers to rainy season and again to winters. But then there are certain places in the world where the weather never changes. Like, for example, on equators, people have the same weather throughout the year. That means the sun will come up in the sky, and by afternoon it will rain, and very torrential rain every day. So that is a process, and then in the night the temperature dips and it becomes very cool. Even though you are on equator, the temperature can go down up to 9 degrees or 8 degrees in the night. So in one day they see so many transitions. And the whole point is that they, people who are living in these conditions would have immunity towards these pathogens. Yet people suffer from all these ailments. They have common cold, they have mental issues, uh, you know they also have a lot of light in the morning, but they are not able to cope up as the day passes. So I think it's a situation related to a lot of human beings, where they have to adjust to these ailments which are arising because of the temperature or weather change. What is your guidelines to those people who are not immune to these ailments?
Right. So, taking the first part of your question, that people who are living next to the equator and people who are living far away, north and south. So, we tend to adapt to the changes. That is a basic nature in the human race. So, we definitely adapt to the change. So, in whatever climatic condition we are living in, we get used to it after a while, especially growing up periods. And these kind of disorders, they majorly affect, if we are talking only about the physical disorders, all the physiological ones, they majorly affects kids under the age of 5. So you can see the mortality rate is more in them. So it is highly recommended that they should be put on a very good diet. Their vaccination is to be there right on time. If it requires the frequency, then it has to be there. Plenty of fluids. Maybe I'm not saying only the water, maybe the juice, lassi, curd, in any form one can take the fluids, or maybe the raw form of the fruit. They should actually go ahead with it. Follow a routine. That is so very important. If we don't follow a routine, it somehow leads us to a kind of laziness that again can lead to the, later on to some kind of initial stage of the mental disorder. So people living at equator, if we are talking specifically about them, they are more or less more prone to the stomach, ear, nose, throat, these skin, specifically skin. So these kind of major disorders, or you can say diseases, not disorders, diseases we see in these people. But you will see, since the daylight is more available, so the mental disorders are comparatively less as compared to the people who are living at the poles where the daylight is very less available. So my recommendation is 3 points are very very specific and is are universal to almost all kind of conditions, mental, physical, related to climatic. So the three mantras are: please take bath every day, independent of it is snowing outside, independent of how hot it is, how exhausted anybody is. Taking a bath is a must. It makes you mentally very very relaxed when somebody takes a bath. It calms down the body. Second is a hygiene. So maybe it is, yes, it is related to the first part itself, taking a bath. So hygiene in terms of washing the hands very frequently. So thank God it has been very nicely highlighted in the era of COVID. But prior to that, there has been, number of deaths that are happening because of the diarrhea and many other infectious disorders or diseases. So it's so important to maintain the basic hygiene. Third is be on a very, very good diet, which is less in carb, and the fluid intake has to be adequate depending on the climatic conditions and the temperature variability.
So in fact, you mentioned about taking shower regularly. I've heard about soldiers who are returning from very harsh duty like Siachen in India, and they are not able to take shower for like couple of months. And when they take shower after returning after a couple of months, like 6 months or 3 months, then you should, you know, talk to them, how they feel. I think the point is very well made. So coming back to our situation in India, where now the weather is changing and the COVID is also there. Although vaccinations are being provided, but the millions of people are still not vaccinated. So there is a very high risk of getting common cold, and that could be dangerous for us also. And the point number two that you also mentioned is that since because of the lockdown, most of the people are indoors. So what is your advice to people by and large, how they protect themselves from ailments like common cold, because that can lead to COVID, or it could be diagnosed as COVID, or probably start the COVID. So how they can you know change their lifestyle to protect themselves.
Yes, CK, definitely. Now, the first part is whenever the weather changes, it definitely brings some kind of changes in the human body as well, in terms of temperature variation, or you say anything, or fluid intake, or the dietary, or the sleep patterns. So, if we are talking specifically about the COVID, and yes, the weather change will definitely have some sort of effect onto this thing. Though I strongly believe that the temperature has got no relation to the size and structure of the COVID virus. It can only be the outer wall can only be broken with the help of a you know some soap or detergent or the sanitizer. So the temperature has got very less effect as far as COVID is going. But since the weather is changing, and we should be more immune towards the other complications, because if our immune go down, then we are more vulnerable towards the COVID as well. So in order to have a good immune, it is very important to have a basic home management, which includes the basic hygiene, a good diet, and ample amount of fluid. So these are the three things. But whenever the weather changes, you will see specifically during the summers, people undergo dehydration. And the reverse happens. The people, when we are in the winter phase, we tend to have cramps in legs, in the calves. So same happens in the summer as well. But the reason is in both the condition is the deficiency of the magnesium, less fluid intake in summer as well and in winter as well. So my recommendation to as much stay safe from COVID and the other illnesses is to boost the immune system. And one can do it very simply at home with a simple management of diet, hygiene, and as much as social distancing we can maintain, I would appreciate that.
So I think we have discussed enough importance about maintaining the good environment around ourselves. How do we control our mental health? Is there a possibility, or is there a remedy during this period, like meditation or anything else which you'd like to recommend?
Yes, yes, definitely, CK. In fact, I agree to you. You have already given one of the point meditation to come out of it. But to be very frank, if I can just start up with that mental disorders, they specifically affect during the winter time, or they are also called as winter blues, because the less of the daylight is available. So the melatonin, or you can say the sleep hormone, to be very frank, is somehow its limit is also either increased or decreased depending on the daylight being exposed to that particular person. So if somebody is already having a bipolar or any kind of mental illness or disorder, maybe a transient one, maybe a permanent one, somebody is undergoing medication, not undergoing medication, the psychotalk is going on. So when the winter patch comes, specifically these kind of people or population, they tend to get affected more. So it is so important that we should follow a very particular schedule every day. We try to inculcate a new hobby that we wanted to pursue or we are pursuing. So it is highly recommended for these people or population who are already having some issue to please kindly follow a particular routine. Be I'm not saying stay strictly disciplined, changes has to be there in a day routine or chores. But yes, try to follow a definite pattern in a day. Try to pursue some kind of hobby. If you are very fond of talking to someone, give a call, you know, or try to write it down if somebody is not available. It's very important that we express ourselves. Uh, and the communication, which is actually a key to come out of any kind of mental illness, is very very important. So please, a conversation, I don't mean only talking. Communication in terms of reading, writing, learning, all these factors are to be included. So if somebody is very fond of reading, so they must, or may can try some new style of reading, some different pattern or styles of reading. So this is very very important to get yourself in comfortable shoes if somebody is having some kind of mental disorders pre-existing in them. So that is the first recommendation, communication. And second is, again, I very highly recommend people to be on a good diet. So specifically during the winter, somebody who's already undergoing some kind of illness, they should or must not include many, I mean, a lot of carbs in their diet, which is very important because we tend to gain weight. Somebody tends to gain weight in the winter time because of the more intake of the carb. And if you already have some kind of pre-existing factor, it adds on more. So I would recommend to be on a very good diet, which is less in carb, more of fluids, and communication in terms of the four different aspects that I discussed, not only talking, but in other aspects is very, very important.
Doctor, thank you very much for summarizing this beautifully. And I'm sure a lot of our viewers will find this advice very valuable, especially when the weather is changing. And in fact, now the weather is changing, and after 2 months again, weather will change. So I think if you follow certain lifestyle, as you have said, and also follow certain level of diet. You mentioned good diet. It could mean a vegetarian diet or it could be a non-vegetarian diet. It depends on people, but they have to maintain a good diet and keep themselves hydrated and also communication. So I think these are very good advice to make sure that we live healthy and also have a mental health. I mean, good mental health. So with this, I would like to say thank you for today, Dr. Bedi. Your advices are very valuable for us. It was pleasure and lovely talking to you on this Monday.
Thank you so much, CK, and stay safe. Thank you so much.
So see you next time with something more interesting. Until then, bye bye.
Take care.